I like peanut butter. Are you a peanut butter fan?
Not a big fan, but if I had to choose, I'd go with smooth, not the chunky.
You're not a chunky guy.
I'm not a chunky guy. Yeah.
See,
well, I mean with peanut butter.
Smooth texture. It's all about the texture for me, right?
That's what she says.
Yeah, right?
I know she likes the chunky, and
Me
I
too,
don't.
man. Crunchy all the way. Come on, you gotta
But
get a
apparently peanuts are not good for you anyway, so he's got to go almond butter.
So, right.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like almond butter.
Hey, you know what? We gotta start.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, ready?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talk Story. I'm Doug.
And I'm Pete, and this is
Brent Miller Jr.
Brent, thank you for joining us today, man.
Hi, my name's
thank
Peter
you.
David Jr.
I wish I
Not
had a
even
name
junior,
like
I know,
that.
yeah, my name's Peter. Mine's my middle name.
I was almost a junior, but my dad gave me a different middle name. I had the same name as my dad.
Oh yeah.
But I have a different middle name, so I'm not a junior.
Okay, that's
there you
great.
go.
So let's get on with the real stuff here.
It means something to me. No, I'm
Hey,
just kidding.
Hey, guess what? We're still in Hilo.
That's right.
And now we've got another person, and this is Brent. And Brent is a filmmaker, so we're excited about it because we're all about creative stuff. So Brent's looking at us like these guys are freaks. But the reason, what we're trying to do here is talk about creative things. And of course, we're here at a special event called the Endure Conference, which relates mostly to prophetical things and biblical prophecy.
Is prophetical a word?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Not
okay.
parenthetical, but prophetical.
Okay.
Okay, so, and the reason why it's interesting is you're a filmmaker, so you're in the creative world, but you have focused on prophetic things, not pathetic things.
I didn't say pathetic.
Prophetic things.
Well,
Right, prophecy.
we'll watch the film first, and then maybe.
I did, and it's not pathetic. It's awesome.
No,
It's awesome, man. You guys do great work.
thank you.
I love seeing what you guys put together. How did you get involved in production in general?
Oh, that's it's kind of a funny story. I never set out to become a filmmaker. I used to live in New York City, and I was a project manager for new media and some broadcasting things for MTV networks in Manhattan. And I was actually there for the horrible events on 9/11. I was a couple blocks away when the first plane struck, and it was a moment that changed my life forever, as it did for millions of others. But that was the first time that we began hearing a lot of things in the news about prophecy and religious conflict and a lot of these very heavy topics which most Americans at the time really were not familiar with, still aren't. So it was through studying, why is there religious conflict, hearing of the first time about Christ is supposed to return, hearing about all these sorts of things that led me personally on a journey to look at Bible prophecy, or what we also call eschatology. Which I believe truly validates the entire scriptures for a non-believer. It's the proof that the Bible is real and contains the one and true God.
It reminds me, right? Is it Isaiah where God says, "Hey, I'm going to tell you
The things
are going to happen before they happen."
Exactly.
To prove myself, which is great.
Yeah, that is the proof. And there's no other religious text that exists that does that. And that says a lot. So
That's a risky move, right?
Yeah.
Especially so specific that the Bible does.
Absolutely.
That's why you should never do that.
And I will.
'Cause you'd be terrible.
I would.
Yeah. So moving on from there, you took what you've learned in your MTV days and probably other production things, and now you're focusing on these biblical prophetic things.
Yeah. Film as a medium just really penetrates the heart. It's reached to so many people worldwide, and it has a different aesthetic to it than reading or anything else, and it's just really the perfect medium to portray the emotion that the scriptures do contain of why we can trust it.
Absolutely. I love watching I watched The Coming Convergence and loved it. I love the way you piece together. There's so much to cover, and I don't know if you do your writing and stuff for an organization of the content, but man, it was really well organized. And one of my favorite little blips, this is going to sound interesting to you possibly, but it was when you were going through a section and it said how the world has been given kind of a bad taste of prophecy from all these different things, Nostradamus and the Mayan calendar, and then it went through this whole montage and it said apocalyptic cookies on sale now or something like that. I was like, this is so great, because it takes such a heavy and deep topic that means so much to so many people, and you kind of break the ice. You broke the ice for me right there when you did that. You know what I mean? And to have that kind of timing, I was like, that's smart timing right there.
Yeah, and just so you know, Doug likes to eat. He loves cookies.
I think we were actually just hungry that day.
I know, that's what it was.
And we're like, hey, we have
Pause! I need a cookie.
Doug is always about food. And you know, the cool thing about Doug, though, is when he comes in with this beautiful piece of whatever, he always wants to give you half. So that's a nice thing.
They say that I'm such a
Just
nice
be ready.
guy.
If you have something that you don't want to share,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we were going to put the recipe for Apocalypse Puppy Cookies in the Blu-ray and DVD cases, but we thought it was too much.
You
so
should do behind the scenes of making it. Today we're here making the apocalyptic cookies.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point. I mean, the whole point to that, it broke the ice and kind of, it's a very intense topic. It's a very serious topic, Bible prophecy, the end of days, and so it was a way to kind of ease a little bit of that pressure at the beginning, but it was also just kind of a reflection of what the media does. I mean, the average American, their only exposure to prophecy are little 10-second snippets on the news, and it's so taken out of context and so misleading that it's absurd to that level.
What's funny too is it looks at prophecy as, oh, here's the far absurd thing about prophecy. Coronavirus, for instance, that's a big thing right now. People are believing it's the end of the world, ha ha ha, and they kind of laugh it off. You know? But yet you see what's happening just beyond that. Coronavirus is really small compared to what's really happening out there.
What else I really liked about it was that you approach it in a way that says, we're not telling you we got it all figured out. We're not saying you're telling you we have this profound revelation that nobody knows about until today.
That's the takeaway, is that we didn't want to say this means that. We don't want to say we have it all figured out, because we know based on prophecies that have come to pass. For example, the Bible has about 2,500 prophecies in it, and we know that 2/3 have come to pass, and not just according to the Bible, but according to secular history, to Josephus and all these various scholars over the course of thousands of years. There's no denying they've come to pass. So if 2/3 of them have already happened, then wouldn't, even statistically thinking, any rational person who's open to really looking at the evidence would think, well, the remaining 1/3, which is, you know, now leading to the second coming of Christ, must also come to pass. So we're not saying this means that and it's all sensationalized. We're saying let's step back and look at the big picture and see why we can trust it.
And I can really appreciate that. And you reminded me of what I was going to say, which was the prophecy that said that all the stones from the buildings would be thrown into the sea.
Oh yeah.
And then that actually happened. Because they wanted to reach to some little island or something, so they took the rocks to build like a little roadway with the stones of the city. Am I saying that right?
Yes, the destruction of the city of Tyre was prophesied. And that's another huge misconception. It's because of media and the news that they think Bible prophecies is, you know, these general prophecies of some man's going to come by someday and do something, and you know, if you're kind of in the ballpark, you know, people are like, oh, it was prophesied. That's so misleading. It's ridiculous. I mean, some of the specificities, like as you were stating, like the city of Tyre was prophesied that it would not only be destroyed, but that the people in the city would move into an island, and then later someone would come along and then take all the rubble and build a causeway out and then wipe them all out. You know,
That's
and
crazy.
then I mean, it literally. In
Serious.
fact, what's amazing is so many biblical prophecies are like that, especially in the book of Isaiah and other areas, that a lot of university scholars say there's no way this can actually have been predicted because it's so specific. It's too specific. It names names, and it's so unbelievable, and yet. When they actually look at when these prophecies were written, like parts of Isaiah, for example, they actually have extra biblical evidence, meaning copies and records quoting these prophets in pagan societies around Israel, not Israel itself, in times that they know they were recorded at during, you know, the reign of certain kings and whatnot. So they know that they actually were predicted before the events occurred. It's proven.
So it's not just like, oh, we can say that we said it 500 years ago, but it was actually said the day after it happened.
Exactly.
There's secular proof that talk about that prophecy being made.
Absolutely.
You know, I love what you do, Brent, and I'll tell you why. Because before I knew God, I was with the rest of the world, as everybody else was before they knew God. And the idea that I had of the Bible in my head was that it was a fairy tale, impossible to understand, not relevant, and that God was this, he was either this or this Powerpuff Girl. And that is the perspective that the world has. And what you are doing is you're using the medium of media to help to show the world the truth of the amazing things in the Bible. That it is very relevant. That God is not a Powerpuff Girl, and He's not a kid with a magnifying glass with a pile of ants. And I love that you're painting the Bible in such a perspective, because that is so necessary and so important. I want to do that, and I see you doing that, and it inspires me.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You actually brought up an interesting point, is that a lot of people, including a lot of Christians that don't really discuss this topic in depth, they see the Old Testament and the New Testament as almost having two different gods. You know, they say, they look at the Old Testament as, you know, the wrath and, you know, brimstone God. And the New. And in fact, it's not true at all, because when you look at the biblical timeline, God's plan for us from the very beginning to the very end, from Genesis through Revelation, you see the nature of God consistent throughout. It's an unbroken timeline. The Old Testament flows right through the New, and the New is a fulfillment of the Old. So it's all, I mean, when you really begin looking at Bible prophecy and how it's interwoven throughout the entire scriptures, it's such an amazing wake-up call for the church. You can never look at the world the same way again.
How was it for you? I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm so excited.
You are excited.
Can I just say one more question and I'll be done? How was it that got you excited about Bible prophecy? What was, like, I know you said 9/11 is what got you, but what was it that first drew your attention, maybe in those events, to Bible prophecy?
It was really the whole concept of everything that we know in life is going to come to an end. And I mean, inherently, we all know that, right? I mean, we're born in this world knowing we're not going to be here forever. But it's not really a reality for many people. They don't want to think about the end. They don't want to think about death. We just want to, you know, live in the moment, if you will. And that's really most of the world. And yet when you have events like that happen, like 9/11, or you have pandemics and things like this occur, I think God also uses that as a wake-up call for us to pay attention to the fact that there is an end to all of this. And so it was really the first time in my life where a horrific event happened right in front of my eyes, and you know the world is going to change. Everything we think we know about society is going to change and or come to an end. And so the question is, why? Why does that have to happen? Why is it prophesied that, you know, all these horrible things are coming? And then when you actually look at it, what you don't see is doom and gloom. Again, another misconception by so many people. You see the love of Christ. You see God coming to essentially save man from ourselves. And that's ultimately the end.
So true.
Really true. So you've been speaking to a lot of professional, or how would you say, experts in the world of prophecy. You've done most of your films feature different people, like Jay McCarl and some of the others. So out of all of that, out of all the information you've gone through, you know what it's like to edit.
Right.
Hours
Unfortunately.
cutting through, oh my goodness.
Editors is a special kind of person, let me tell you.
It's a lot of work. Hone it all in for me. Give me the one thing. I'd put two. The one thing.
Or it's one big thing.
How would you sum it up? The one thing that really surprised you in all the efforts of making these films. What is the one thing that really stands out to you that surprises you?
I'm going to have to get serious here.
You've got 10 seconds.
I'll try. In fact, it was when we're producing our new film, Before the Wrath, narrated by Kevin Sorbo, which is available now. And it's about how the apostasy of the church, how so many are becoming blind to the credibility of the Bible, even within the church itself, is just spiraling out of control. And we worked with Lifeway Research in Nashville on some of the statistics and trends happening within the church in America. And when you actually see the movement away from sound doctrine, it's terrifying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you feel a lot of people are being, what's the word? Misdirected, misguided.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And in fact,
that's scary.
We know that prophecy is being marginalized in the church. That's another reason why Ingenuity Films focuses on this topic so much, because of how important it is.
Right.
Because a third of the entire Bible is prophecy. But the thing is, you can't remove prophecy from the Bible without also removing the return of Christ, because it's what all prophecy leads to. And so, since most churches are now removing prophecy from, their weekly sermons and their Bible studies, they're missing the complete Word of God, and there's no longer an attention on the return of Christ, and as a result, people are no longer looking for what's going on in the world. They're no longer looking at why God has used prophecy to prove that He is God, why it validates the Bible, and that Christ is coming back for us. I mean, after all, that's the gospel. I mean, you're literally gutting the gospel.
Yeah.
The gospel is that Christ came, died for us, rose from the dead, left to prepare a place for us, and is coming back, right? And people, they just leave that part off.
Your film is available now. Is it available online, or do you buy a DVD, or what do you do?
It's available on DVD, Blu-ray, and digital, and it's going to be popping up. It began rolling out to different retailers like Walmart and Target, Amazon. It's also available at beforethewrath.com. It'll eventually be everywhere in multiple countries.
Okay,
I rented Coming Convergence on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So I just want to say, and let's ask the producer again, can we give one of these away? We'll pay for it. So we're going to buy one of yours. We're going to give it away to the person who asked for it on social media, the first person. We can only do one. Right?
I like this guy's thinking.
Okay, so you better put your name down and say, I want this film by Brent.
Yes.
Okay.
Brent, thank you so much for being a part of our stuff here. We want to meet with you again to talk about some more. I got a whole bunch of things in my head that I want to go through the Rolodex. But thank you for talking with us, and thank you for the work that you do. It inspires us as being filmmakers, and we see what you do. We want to aspire to do things more like that.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
We'll see you in part 2.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Part 2. All right.